Peanut butter and jelly, a rainy day, and a good book. Some combinations just make sense. Bringing Formula Renault 2.0 race cars to Bathurst, well, like Palacio Domingo wrapping or broccoli ice cream, it's not a traditional combination, but that doesn't mean it won't be exciting. Sanctioned by Apex Online Racing, the Formula Renault 2.0 Season 10 Championship comes to Mount Panorama. It's ran 10 to 12, and you can see all the doubleheader action that consists of a 40-minute feature followed by a 25-minute sprint live as it happens here on the Global SimRacing channel. G'day mates, and welcome to another GSRC broadcast. I'm Bill Soupson, joined by Joe Peak. Sean Ambrose is our director with cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Joe, the Formula Renault 2.0 is not the sturdiest of race cars, and Mount Panorama is an unforgiving track. Makes me glad I'm in the booth and not behind the wheel for this one.
Well, I can tell you from the laps I didn't practice that I'm also glad to be out of the cockpit and up here now. And honestly, you don't even have to get down on the track to have some fear put into your heart by this place. Just looking at the stats bit by bit will do it. It's over 6 kilometers or 4 miles just for the lap length. That's a pretty long lap. Then you take a look at the number of corners and see there's 23 of them to memorize. And you're not done there. Those 23 turns go up and down the height of a 50-story building. Oh, did we mention that the majority of those turns are flanked by concrete barriers with no runoff because it's effectively a street course? When you discuss it this way, it sounds more like something from a video game than a real track that's still run to this day. And I'm not talking club-level series that they still run. The V8 supercars have the Bathurst 1000, and then there's the famous Bathurst 12 Hours with the GT3 cars. This whole deal is comparable to places like Le Mans or the Nürburgring in terms of shock that they're still operating in this era of racing. But going back to being glad I'm up here and not down there, the best way to really drive home how crazy this track is to hop on board the GSRC Renault for a lap.
All right, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC Formula Renault 2.0, so let's do a lap around Bathurst. Up first is Hell Corner, but it's deceptive on the surface. It's a simple 90-degree left turn, but your exit is critical to a good lap time. That's because you're now climbing up the mountain straight, so you won't be lifting for a long while. Drafting is likely to play a big part along this stretch, so expect to see some strategy games between drivers. As you come over the hump, hold to the left and spot your brake marker for Griffin's Bend. This is a turn where overtakes are probably going to take place. It's also a turn that tends to induce understeer, making it easy to clatter that outside curb too hard and chuck the car into the wall. Quickly, you've got to switch sides and get the car turned in for the cutting. This kink makes for tricky braking, and then the steep uphill incline to the second half will mean momentum is important. After that, you'll round Quarry, making sure to keep your foot in it and taking a nice wide arc around the bends. At the top will be Reed Park, followed by Frog Hollow, and then Solomon Park. The downforce of the Renault means this typically tricky section becomes a flat-out blast. Only the loss of grip from the crest of McPhillamy means a tiny lift to get you through the top of the hill. From here on out, it's a lot tougher. Balance the car on the brakes down through the S's and try to get it slowed up enough for the dipper. You can see these dramatic elevation changes actually cause a front wheel to go into the air momentarily a couple times. If you made it through that bit clean, make sure to line up the curved entry into Forest Elbow. This awkward downhill braking makes it extremely difficult to get the exit you need out of this important corner. Ideally, a late apex will get you the launch you need to carry your speed onto the Conrod Straight. Yet again, drivers will be using the draft either to find more lap time or save more fuel depending on the race conditions. As we approach the chase, things might get a bit spicy. The kink on entry is easily flat out, but when you're approaching at 150 plus miles an hour, hitting your brake marker accurately is a hard ask. This will probably be one of the most popular places for a pass all day, but the crest right after the apex often makes it easy to slide off the track into the grass, so beware. As you come around the bend, swing the car off to the right and set up for Murray's Corner. The best advice for this bend is to not get too aggressive on the inside curb. It tends to upset the car horribly. Hopefully, you've kept it on track and can now finish a lap around Bathurst.
Lap around Bathurst. Now, before we talk about the points, let's go ahead and review who got best of day honors last time at Zandvoort for round 9. Joe?
Well, if we look at it, Kerry Nolden took the top honors, but Josh Thompson certainly gave him a run for his money, getting to first in the sprint race and finishing 4th there. in the second race. But Scott Newton, he managed to get a third and a fourth himself. So really consistency was incredible up at the top of the field. And he actually tied with Patrick Kessler for his first and 17th. Of course, Kessler is going to have to do a little bit better than that. That 17th position did not get him any points in that second race. And then Glenn Key just sneaked up onto the top 5 with a 5th and an 8th, respectable, but not what we're used to from Glenn.
There you go, Joe Peak talking to us. A little bit of a cyborg thing going on there from him, but we got most of that one. Let's go ahead now and look at the driver standings. And when we look at this, you can see that Phil Reed for AOR Orange has time to erase that 21-point gap between himself and the point leader Patrick Kessler for SimRC. And if Kessler's teammate Renee Osterkamp gets on a roll like he did when he started the season, he too could get there. The biggest problem for both Reed and Osterkamp is thanks to the drop rounds, Kessler has 32 unscored points in his pocket. You can see that by the little 32 by the droplet up on his row. If disaster strikes sometime before the end of the season, Kessler will be guaranteed at least 32 points. How about Glenn Key? He's been popping in and off the overlay in 5th place all season long. The positive SimRacing green driver says enough of that, showing up this time up in 4th. That pushes SimRC Retro's Stefan Herman down into 5th. Let's go ahead and look at the team championship, where over the last several rounds, Glenn Key and Manuel Hoyer for PSR Green have been closing in on the leaders, but they lost ground at Zandvoort. Time or lack of it is on the side of SimRC and Renee Osterkamp and Patrick Kessler. Phil Reed has been good, has been really good for some races, and Kerry Nolden's have been really good for some races. The problem with Team AOR Orange is they need to get both those drivers to have good races on the same event. The team to watch out for next season is PSR Orange, Alexei Sorokin, and Lubomir Morris. Those guys are coming on. Charlie Summers and Daniel Morris get AOR Blue for back on the graphic. All right, GSRC is always attracting new viewers. For those unfamiliar with AOR and how things are and how things happen here, let's go ahead and try Joe Peak one more time and see if he can tell us about the series details.
Yeah, well, today we're looking at round 10 of 12 for the series details, and they get 3 drop weeks in this series. So you can make a few mistakes, but I mentioned it before, consistency is going to be key over the course of the season. We've got 2 races. We'll go over this first one a little bit more in a second. And they have open setups. Now, that's going to be very, very important because you got a bit of a compromise here. You want to be fast over the top of the mountain, so you need a bit of downforce. But you really can't put much downforce in the car because you have to be fast in the straight line. So that open setup, that's going to make a big, big difference in lap times. Now, fast repairs, they don't have any. So if you break it, you bought it. And, well, it's very easy to break the car around here. Those walls are incredibly close. This race on this specific first race, they do the sprint and the regular distance one. This feature race, if you will, is 40 minutes long. And they grid that by being sequential. Of course, that seems obvious. Most races are gridded according to where they wind up in terms of qualifying pace. But that'll be important because when they grid up the second race, it'll be a reverse of the top 20 if you finish within 2 laps of the leader. Now, a win in this race is going to be worth 32 points, and you get it down there to about 20th spot where you get 1 point for that 20th position. And then the incident cap in this race, so they do have one, although I doubt we'll see many drivers meet all of the 15 incidents. You will be DQ'd when you hit that 15X here in iRacing, Bill.
Yeah, hard to pick up too many incidents here and still keep your car raceable. Let's go ahead and check in on qualifying that's already started. And look at this, Manuel Hoyer sitting up on the top of the charts. But how about the guy in second? Charlie Summers. Having a good run here at Bathurst. There's Charlie right now. Always fast. Due to pick up a win here pretty soon. Now, Joe, one of the things that always affects this race is the weather. What are we looking at here today in Australia?
Well, as we bring that up, it's a nice sunset here, but 81 degrees out on the track is probably going to be pretty good for the drivers. You really don't want much hotter than that around here. It's in iRacing, it's a little bit grippier in cool conditions. So it's not quite like real life where the coolness kind of slows the car down because of loss of grip with the tires. Now the wind we can see is at 10 miles an hour, and that could affect drivers. The thing is, we saw last time that it could gust around a little bit sometimes, but if you see it right there, it's not really moving around much. So it should be pretty consistent. They should know what they're up against. If it does change, though, and it does start gusting a little bit, that's going to be a big problem over the top of the mountain.
Riding on board with Scott Newton, who had a great round last time out in the Netherlands. As he showed up on our Best of Day graphic, sitting in 3rd place. It was great to see Scott do so well. I believe he has a little home cooking here, as he's one of the few drivers are from down under. Joe, let's talk a little bit about, track blockages. Attrition is always one case, but early on, that's something you have to worry about.
Oh, yes. Especially on the opening laps around here. It's very, very tricky. You got to be oh so careful, because it's not just your own race that you need to worry about ending. It's pretty much everybody behind you. And the drivers have been discussing it. They are a little wary of this because they have that at Detroit a couple weeks ago, remember? So they're kind of trying to avoid having a repeat of what we saw, what we've been calling the Blues Brothers moment, where everybody just kind of piles into a group of cars. But as much as you try to avoid it, it's still the slightest mistake can send you around, can clip the wall. So even with the best of intentions, Bill, there's a good chance it could happen.
Little bit of a smaller field here today, with qualifying just about done. Only 19 drivers have put in qualifying times, and only 3 have not. Evan Emre, Daniel Morris, and Connor Ryan yet to put in a time. Daniel Morris actually didn't even put in a practice time, even though we were just on him. So he'll have to be starting from the back. Qualifying is done. Let's go ahead to our grid right now. On the front row, it's Manuel Hoyer. He's going to be inside of that time held up for Charlie Summers. Good for Charlie up on the front row. Row 2, Phil Reed, and then the newcomer who's been really fast, Alex Sadler. A pair of SimRC drivers, Renee Osterkamp and Patrick Kessler, populate row 3. Josh Thompson, who is a very confident driver, if I can put it that way, sits in 7th, inside of Scott Newton. And row 5 is Alexei Sorenkin and Lubomir Morris, those 2 teammates. Joe?
Urkel Lindstrom will be starting in 7th with Kerry Nolden in 12th position. Sam Blackwood, he'll start P13. Will be followed by Kevin Turner in 14th position. Dominic Gatermeyer will start this race P15. Then in 16th, it'll be Tom Van Hoyman. Row 9 is started by Ali Hay in 17th with Thomas Edwards in 18th. Then Sarah Dove said she was going to start from the pits, but I guess she is still going to start the pits. I don't see her on the grid yet. Evan Emre did not put a qualifying time in 20th. Daniel Morris 21st, and Connor Ryan in 22nd. Bill?
We talked about how we regrid down to 20th. Well, with only 22 drivers here and really not having to worry about being on the lead lap with this laps being so long here, we should see most of the field regrid, which is going to be bad news for some of these guys like Manuel Hoyer and Charlie Summers. If they get a good finish, they'll have a long way to go. Of course, attrition plays a big factor here. How many of these cars finish, Joe? Usually we see something about a 50% attrition rate, so I wouldn't be surprised if we only get 12 or 13 cars making it to the end.
Yeah, I would not bet against that either. And really, the big one for me as far as finishing rate is the sprint race. That's going to be even tougher.
Yeah. All right, well, this is round 10. We have 2 in the books here today. We have the long feature and then the short sprint coming up. You can hear the engine start to harmonize, so you know what to do. Gather up the chickens, take cover behind the cows, because the horses are once again out of the barn. Heading down into the first corner, it's Manuel Hoyer. He's followed by Charlie Summers, Phil Reed, Alex Sadler, and Renee Osterkamp.
Well, they did a good job getting through the first corner, but now we're going to start to see the slipstream come into effect, because already we got a challenge for the lead.
We'll see that battle going in. They're going to get that sorted out before they get into the first corner, because they'll need to be single file as they work their way up and down the mountain.
Yeah, this is where that patience comes into play, and also just making sure that you don't do anything too risky, including how you drive by yourself. Watching as they go through the cutting, I'm not seeing any incidents so far.
So far, so good.
Sorokin. He was by himself. Wow, actually, he was in the middle of a pack. We'll get back to it later, but yeah, he turned it around after Griffin's Bend and managed to get it going without getting hit.
Right in front of Lindstrom, who was racing in 8th or 10th position at the time. Ooh, that could have been ugly. We had dodged a bullet there. Meanwhile, up in front, it is Charlie Summers, who did get around Hoyer. No, let me correct myself. It's, Charlie Summers, Hoyer, Reed, Sadler, and Osterkamp.
And here's the other bit where the draft comes into play. These are long straights, Bill. So you're going to see some draft battles happen. As hard as it is to follow behind another car over the top of the mountain with the wake, this will bring you back in just a split second. Just look at how much they're gaining on each other.
The car too wide back there was Thompson and Kessler. You see them coming out, going through the chase right now. And, boy, they managed. They are, again, Thompson again finds himself right in the action, and he's going to finish the pass, I think. Boy, not giving it up.
Kessler's trying very hard the inside at Murray's corner, but I just don't think he has the momentum. Yeah, if I was Kessler, since he's worried about the championship here, I wouldn't be tussling with Thompson too much with the reputation he's gained.
And you know what? Sorokin, remember, he had that he's had an issue again with Thomas Edwards, so Alexei, I think his day is done after that spin. He was trying to work his way through the grid, was not able to complete the first lap. Able to finish the first lap, though, was Charlie Summers. He's our leader.
In fact, Summers pulling away. He's got about a second lead, and that's after the long mountain straight, which is no easy feat. He must have had a phenomenal launch off of Hell Corner.
Now they work their way up. I'll talk about the back half. Go ahead.
Kerry Nolden's turned around in the cutting. That's a difficult place to be, and he exits out. That's a smart thing to do, Bill. As much as it pains you to take that toe, when you're stuck in a blind spot, it's not worth risking yours and everybody else's races.
There's some good sportsmanship there from the UK driver. Let's take a look at this one. He was pinned up. The rear wing was against the wall. There was nowhere for him to go, and he was right in the lacing line. And again, this is a blind corner, so we'll get the replay coming up here on Nolden.
Yeah, I did this a few times myself into this corner. That the rear, if you brake too hard, because that's a kinked entry, it just comes around on you.
And there he gets, and you can see him blink away, and the car shows up in the pits. So, the AOR Racing Orange driver, another one, that's the teammate of Phil Reed.
Wow, look at this battle for second, though. Sadler manages to move himself up there. And I think Phil Reed overtook Manuel Hoyer. Oh, but he's going to give it back because he has a horrible exit out of the chase.
That's Hoyer, who started on the pole, has fallen back to fourth. Now, as they go through Murray on the outside, not going to be able to get that done. He'll have to settle for fourth, but he'll have a run through hell here and then down the, up the front straight. Reed starts to pull away. In fact, Reed, forget about Hoyer coming after him. Hoyer now with a run. Here comes the run on Reed.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of this today. And the real question will be who works together and who really tries to tangle. Well, they're going to too wide maybe into Griffin's Bend. Hoyer comes out ahead, but Phil Reed was sticking in there for quite a while.
Hoyer brought that car over as far to the left as he could to get as wide as entry into the corner. Now they'll have to go single file up and down the mountain.
All this back and forth. Look who it's brought in behind them. We can't see it right now, but Renee Osterkamp not too far behind this battle.
And behind him, Thompson. What's interesting is, remember, there was a battle between Thompson and Kessler. Well, Kessler has really fallen off. Your points leader back into 8th. Scott Newton, who has been coming on lately. There's Osterkamp coming down. Then you can see behind them is there's Osterkamp, and then Thompson and Newton up into 7th.
It was just barely off screen as we were watching Osterkamp head through McPhillamy. But Manuel Hoyer, and Manuel Hoyer just got into the wall. Coming out of Forrest's elbow, he smacked it, Bill.
Yeah, and he's way off pace now.
You can see on the right side of the car where that wing was bent up. I was just about to say, Hoyer coming through McPhillamy basically got it onto the curb, and that's very dangerous. in this car, but this is even more dangerous. You can so easily, with this downhill braking, come in too hard. He got back on the power too soon, and the trees blocked it, but he just slapped it with the right-hand tires.
And then he loses a spot to Phil Reed, falling back into fourth. Joe, you talked about downhill braking, and for me, and correct me if you think I'm wrong about this, but it's a little more challenging coming down the mountain, just I think because of gravity.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's different and difficult in its own way, as Phil Reed here is going to overtake Sadler. So, like I said, this is going to be pretty normal. Hoyer going to take a look to the inside, too. Wow, the draft helping him despite that damage.
Sadler tried his very best to say, okay, I'll let one by, but maybe two. Sadler loses both spots.
So yeah, the thing about coming down the mountain, Bill, is I think it's a lot easier to lock up the tires. I was finding there's a number of spots where the track dips so quickly that it just gets, the right or left front up in the air, and then you lock it up, and then you're not stopping as well, so it just compounds itself.
They are working lap number 4. Let's go ahead. Can we go back to car number 43 in 17th position? This is our hard charger. Let's give a little bit of love to Connor Ryan. Connor, maybe not the fastest of drivers out here today, but he's doing a good job vulturing spots, and right now, racing right behind Sarah Dove.
I want to say he started from the pits along with Sarah Dove. I'm not entirely sure. I know he was considering it. So both of them really have moved forward since the start. As much as they feared a bit of a mess on the first lap, it seems like most everybody avoided it, so they didn't gain quite as much as maybe they expected.
They're a little bit behind Evan and Brian, who races in 15th position.
Don't need to go to it, but Hoyer got by Reed again down the Conrad straight.
Yeah, that's one of the best battles, and they're doing that a lot. Sadler is the third car in line when we get to that one, as we're still looking at, I think that's still Dove and...
Bill, we have an interesting development. Renee Osterkamp's going to take the early stop. Now, as he was entering, it reminded me of another point that we need to talk about. That pit entry, Bill. You need to practice it if you want to get the fastest stop possible, which could be critical if you have a hard time passing someone here. Now, the draft obviously should help you make passes relatively easy, but it's still possible to get stuck behind someone. So even though this pit exit isn't too difficult, you can really royally botch the pit entry.
And there we see Renee Osterkamp making his required pit stop. They have to come in and change 2 tires. He's going to cycle out in 15th position right behind Evan Imre, ahead of the 2 drivers we were just talking about, Sarah Dove and Connor Ryan. Osterkamp qualified 15th, so maybe he's thinking that he can run some hot laps here, although he's kind of get around Imre to do that.
And he's sticking his nose in. This is the risky aspect of pitting early. You're by slow cars. You're by cars who might not be as skilled over the mountain. Oh, you can't go side by side, and Osterkamp knows it. That's the smart decision there. Just lift as you're coming through Frog Hollow out of quarry.
And Imre fighting for position. This is for a battle for 14th spot, and Evan says, you know what?
Oh, Phil Reed out of Forrest's elbow. He had some contact. Alex Sadler. And yep. I don't think Sadler was at fault here, because it looks like Reed just got a little squirrely coming off the corner, had to lift, and poor Alex was so close behind him that he had no place to avoid.
Yeah, Reed was about a quarter of the way around, and then Sadler gets on the binders. He does his very best, but a little bit of help. Good news for Reed is he didn't hit anything, and maybe the car's going to be okay.
Okay, so now we've got Hoyer with damage up there, and Sadler with damage. Oh, but Sadler's coming in. I think he's just going to get a new nose here.
Yep.
Wow, great move by Sadler to think ahead like that. Thompson also pits. He was in quite a battle with Scott Newton as we were watching that other incident.
Osterkamp, who was first to pit, now just going through pit entry right now, just going around Murray. Meanwhile, there goes Sadler is rolling.
Ooh.
He's going to get out in front of Osterkamp, but not Thompson. Well, maybe Thompson.
I think he's got Thompson easily because the momentum is on the side of Rene Oosterkamp. Plus, he had the slipstream. Yeah, this is going to easily let him by. And that's probably going to be a little bit critical for Rene because now he won't have to mess around with trying to get past Josh, which, as we know, is no easy feat.
So Oosterkamp in 11th, Thompson in 12th as they make their stop. But they're both behind Alex Sadler, who came in and did his stop. He's leading all the cars who pitted. This leaves Summer and Hoyer just out there all by themselves now. They can race until they run into traffic.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I'm Summers, I would just continue on until I reach the first car lap down, which unfortunately isn't too far ahead. That's Kerry Nolden. But right now, it won't serve him to try and pit and do anything to get, to cover these guys off because he's got good enough pace. He had enough distance. Just keep running fast laps by yourself where you don't have to worry about anybody.
Let's drop to Nolden's teammate. Let's go to 6th position. This is Phil Reed. Remember he had that spin coming out of Forest Elbow? Well, now he's side by side with Urka Lindstrom as they head towards the chase.
And as that happened, looks like he's going to be able to come out ahead there. But Kevin Turner had an incident in Forest Elbow, and I think he's able to continue on. Actually, miraculously, he didn't hit anything.
Take a look at Turner.
And the amusing thing is this was right in front of Thompson, Oosterkamp, and Sadler, so they had to come around this blind corner with a stopped car. That is honestly your worst nightmare. See, there's Turner.
Stay on it. There they go.
There comes our leaders who have just pitted, having to hope that car is where their spotter says it is.
Turner did a pretty good job of just backing that car up a little bit, getting it out of the racing line. Ali Hay makes his stop. He's in and out.
Turner is going to come in. Now, again, he didn't hit anything, so this shouldn't be to try and repair any damage, unless he hit something before we saw that incident. And none of these guys really, I mean, they're required to take 2 tires, but it doesn't do much for grip and speed around here, especially this early in the race.
Looking at Ken Turner right there. Let's talk about a driver in 7th. This is Lubomir Morris, racing out of the Czech Republic. Lubomir, of course, teamed up with Alexei Sorokin. Sorokin has had issues. He's out of the feature race. Right now, Morris in 7th. And he's got about 3 seconds to a driver that we've seen do really well in the sprint races, and that's Dominic Gatermeyer. Gatermeyer back in 8th right now. Of course, all these drivers still need to make their stops.
Yeah, speaking of the attrition, Bill, we're 14 minutes into this race. Now, grab your faux wood next to you, because I'm going to say it. I'm surprised at how little attrition we've had so far. 19 drivers out of 22 still running, so that's a good sign.
Sam Blackwood, Alexei Sorokin, who we documented, and then Thomas Edwards all out. Other than that, yeah, doing really well.
You mentioned Connor Ryan earlier, and he's gained some spots from the pit stops, but he's running in a solid 15th. For a driver who was worried about his pace, this is not bad.
You see him in 15th. Now, he was in a battle with Sarah Dove. Let's go up a couple positions. You can see just ahead of him, that's Tom Van Hoyman. Just got around Sarah Dove. So Tom is up in 13th, Dove in 14th.
So let's see. Right now we're looking at 19 cars regrid then. At the moment, that could have, of course, changed. Kerry Nolden just came in. Actually, did he have an incident? Because he's in there for a long time. It's over 20 seconds now. Yes, he did. This wasn't too long ago, maybe about 50 seconds ago, up out of the cutting.
And he's called it a race.
Oh, poor Kerry.
We'll see if we can find this one. I think we've got it.
He didn't hit the wall very hard. So this is coming up the mountain straight. It'll be the third corner on the track, effectively. The second one that is what we would consider the mountain segment. So he gets through Griffin's fine. And then it's just coming out of the next one here. I think what he did, Bill, is he gets on the power a little too soon, and it just went around on him.
So he'll have to wait until the sprint race to make up. Now, this is huge, though, because he was still, while he was having a bad race, he was still on the lead lap and would have been regrid to the pole of the sprint race. That's not going to be the case now, as he is done for this part of our event today.
Yeah, I'm really not sure about that call. I would think it'd be worth trying to keep going, especially if nobody was coming up behind you. I guess not for him. I don't know.
It's about the third time he's won. Jeff's not feeling it here today. Here's our running order right now. It's Charlie Summers, Manuel Hoyer, Scott Newton, and Patrick Kessler. Phil Reed has worked his way up to 5th. Here's a good battle, though. This battle that our directors found here for 14th spot.
Still Ryan and Dove. And I thought maybe Ryan was going to try something because he was way far back, but he got in close. Maybe just didn't anticipate the braking of Sorry Dove to be where it was. This will be 14th spot if Connor can get by her.
Yeah, he was off the pace during practice, started from the pits so he wouldn't get into problems, and now he's out there having a good run.
Looks to the inside, but he's a long ways back. Also, I'm really amused that the two nose cams, on Ryan's nose cam, they've got Race Spot on there, and on Sarah's nose cam, they've got GSRC in the exact same spot. So
they go up the mountain. It'll be interesting to see. You can tell that both of these drivers started from the pits. They don't probably had the confidence to race out here. The bad news is they'll have to make a decision when the sprint race comes around because they'll be regridded up near the front.
Boy, yeah, and typically, you know, we see a lot of 2 wide, 3 wide on the first few laps with drivers trying to get to where their pace should put them. I don't know if that's wise to do through here where we've got, and Ryan with a mistake that costs him a better finish out of the dipper.
Take another look at that one.
If you just chuck this car into the dipper a little too hard, it's another spot where the wheels kind of come off the ground because of the elevation change just briefly. And that means the car is going to be a little bit unsettled. So it might be a case of Connor just taking a little too much speed into there, and suddenly the rear starts to go. And, well, like you can see, Bill, there's no room to save it, and pretty much all up the hill here and down the hill. So when it starts to go, you're taking a trip to the scene of the accident. Here's through the S's, and then the dipper is this sharp left-hander.
That's Sarah Dove ahead of him, and up. Okay, well, that's going on. I'd like to update you on a situation. We can go to 9th position. This is the leader of all the cars who've pitted, is Alex Sadler. We can't forget about him because he was racing real close to the front before the pit stops. Well, what I want to talk about is the cars behind Sadler. This is Josh Thompson. Remember, Thompson came out of the pit stop, and Osterkamp got around him right away. Thompson was actually first out on the track, and Osterkamp had the momentum and made the pass. Thompson has since got around Osterkamp, now races in 10th, and is leaving Osterkamp behind. So you're looking at Sadler, Thompson, and Osterkamp, 9th, 10th, and 11th.
This is unusual for Renee, Bill. Usually we see him easily racing for the top spot.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe he's just trying to get some good points finishes in here, or do you think this is legitimate?
Yeah, he only qualified in 5th position, so maybe just not feeling it here today. I say that Thompson put in a 7th qualifier. Thompson qualified in 7th, so
bad for him.
He certainly is feeling it, yeah.
Summers seems to be the man to beat, though. That 350. Granted, Hoyer is dealing with some damage, but I mean, you run with the cards you're dealt with, and right now Charlie Summers been dealt a race where he can command what happens.
Yeah, but if anybody's going to draw a joker out of the deck, it is Charlie Summers. It's bad luck seems to find him. So let's cross our fingers and see if he can get a nice feature race win. He'd be well deserved.
Well, still holding on to his cards for now because has not pitted yet, and we got a bunch of them taking their stops recently. Gatormeyer coming out. So is Emre.
Those two drivers were a little farther back. Gatormeyer going to come out in 11th, just ahead of Tom Van Hoyman. Hoymans, though, still needs to make those stops. There are 3 drivers in the back that we've been watching still need to come in. Van Hoyman, Dove, and, well, I was going to say Connor, but he's now out of it. Let's look at this battle for 7th.
And that's Osterkamp turning up the wick. Maybe he's listening to the broadcast because he's suddenly caught Josh Thompson. I'm going to go back and check to see if Josh had an error, though, because, wow, he caught him quick.
Thompson about just a tick under 3 seconds behind Sadler. But, yeah, here comes Osterkamp for sure. My goodness.
Actually, yeah, he hit the wall. This was coming out of Griffin's Bend. So the second corner.
Well, wait a minute. Osterkamp has just hit the wall. Am I looking at?
I was looking at the replay on my screen, but live he might have hit the wall. Yeah.
Yeah. While we were looking at while we're watching this, we'll see if our director has found it. He's in the pits now. In fact, I think there we go. We got it. Look, he was closing on Thompson. It was right back there. It was hidden right behind the wall.
Yet again.
So there goes Osterkamp again. Another big name out of the hunt. And unless he can get the car back out there, he's not going to finish. He's going to finish more than 1 lap down. He will not get the regrid.
Summers has been in and out of the pits, and he comes back out the highest pitter. So he should retain the lead here.
About 4 seconds ahead of Sadler.
God, this is a season for Osterkamp to forget.
Yep.
This is, for viewers not familiar, this is really unusual form for Rene.
He really fell off a cliff. He was so dominant early on that it was frightening what he was doing. And then, talk about going south in a hurry. And
well,
it has team ramifications as well, with Kessler only racing about 5th position here. That team's got to watch out.
Technically, everybody's gone south because we are down under.
That's true.
So still waiting on Hoyer, Newton, Kessler, and Lubomir Morris to come in and stop. Our top 4, and then a few of the mid-pack drivers as well. I can't believe that Hoyer has stayed out with that damage. I would think immediately he would come in and get that repaired, but maybe it's not showing accurately on our screens. Maybe he didn't actually hit it as hard as we think. Actually, yeah, that's him on screen right now, and I don't see anything on there. So maybe it was just a false alarm.
I would just venture to guess it was, because it's a pretty sharp cookie. That's not the right phrase. But
cookies can be sharp.
Yeah, okay.
Wouldn't want to eat them.
He'd know to come in if there was an issue. There's Scott Newton, who's really been turning his season around of late. He's been impressive. Racing up front with the big boys.
You know, not good for the viewers, but good for the drivers is the fact that everybody's pretty much spread apart and they're just kind of racing their own race. This is what you want as a driver, Bill, at Bathurst, is not to really have to worry about someone pressuring you or being held up by a slower car in front. Just kind of be able to do your own thing and race the track, not other cars. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't make that exciting of racing most times, but you never know. We could have drivers closing in on each other. We'll keep our eye on the time and scoring for our viewers.
Well, we do have an interesting aspect happening. If we go to 4th position, this is Lubomir Morris. Now, he's about 1.7 seconds ahead of Charlie Summers. Now, Summers has made his stop. He's good to go to the end. Morris still needs to pit. The problem for Summers is he's only got about 3 seconds on Sadler, so he cannot afford to sit too long behind Morris when he gets there.
And he had about, I believe it was 1.7, 1.8 seconds ahead of Hoyer.
Right, and that's a good point, Joe. He's racing Hoyer that's on the other side of the track.
So this is definitely not ideal for Summers.
Tom Van Hoyman, as I speak, about 10 seconds ago, just banged it in the wall. He's going to keep going. We're going to take a look at this one. He's having a good race, racing in 11th, but that might give Sarah Dove a chance to vulture that spot, no pun intended. Right on board with Tom.
Yeah, another one for the cutting, and another case of just trying to get back on the power and the rear tires spin it up.
That looked real familiar to the one we saw with Kerry Nolden.
Yep.
The car just came around.
It's exactly what I was getting at. Coming into that corner, it's super, super tempting to try and just pound that right pedal down, Bill, because that's the start of really one of the steepest climbs. So you need to really get momentum, because even though these are fast cars, it's not the most incredible, most oomph-ful engine, if oomph-ful is a word. I think I just made that up. Yeah.
I don't like that word. Manuel Hoyer, that's a German word, so I'll use that one. Oompful. Let's go right to Manuel Hoyer as he continues to still race out there in the lead. But Charlie Summers now is only a second behind Lubomir Morris for fourth. This is where this is going to get interesting. And his lead back to Sadler is which was once over 3 seconds, now 2.8. So Sadler's coming.
Wonder if it's a little bit of the aero wash too, that making it hard for Summers to run the pace that he was before. Ideally, what should happen for the 350 is if Charlie can catch him on the Conrad straight here instead of across the top of the mountain, he could slingshot by and not lose time. I thought I heard someone spinning, but I can't quite make out where that came from.
Remember that Summers is racing not only Sadler, who is behind him, and Lubomir Morris, who he's going to need to get around, but also Manuel Hoyer, who's on the other side of the track, who continues to hot lap with nobody in front of him. Now let's see what happens here. He's too far back, Joe.
He's still going to get the slipstream effect, so he's going to close in quite a bit, especially towards the end when they're getting up to 160 miles an hour here.
What that did do was draw him away from Sadler, as he was able to use that slipstream to actually get some distance behind him and Sadler, who's gaining on him. And there's a break.
Lubomir is Charlie is currently Lubomir's biggest fan right now. Just says thank you.
And I got a hunch that, again, Lubomir didn't have to pit there. He could have stayed out for another lap or so, but let's come in right now and let Charlie go by.
To Lubomir's credit, it also helps him too, because he doesn't want to lose time fighting Charlie. So for him, it's like, this is probably the best time to pit, because if I pit now, we won't have to try and work our way around each other.
Hey, while that was going on, Hoyer made a stop. This is big news. Manuel Hoyer was in and out and is ahead of Charlie Summers. He did the undercut.
Wow. That, and by a large margin, 1.5 seconds. That's about how far he was behind, which means he's made a swing of about 3 seconds, Bill. Yep. I did not expect that. So let's see, the difference, there was about a second difference in pit times in the box I'm seeing.
Yep. About a half a second in the box, according to my time in scoring, about a second cone to cone, which, when the margin is at a second, that's pretty much how you do it.
So he must have just been putting those hot laps in, and that combined with his pit crew being on the ball today, that paid off. But Summers is starting to gain. He's chopped about 4/10 off over the top of the mountain.
And about 2.7 seconds back is Sadler. That gap seems to go up and down. Sadler needs to pick up just a little bit more, and he can get into this mix as well. We are still waiting for Scott Newton, our leader, to come in and make a stop. I don't expect Newton to get in and out before the 3 leaders come around up front, but he might be able to get out in front of Lubomir Morris.
Yeah, that's really, he was battling with Josh Thompson, I believe it was. So actually, he should be racing Thompson, unless Thompson's been running some really good laps.
Thompson has worked his way up into, well, what is 5th right now, will be 4th overall. He's ahead of Kessler.
And in pretty much clear air. Hasn't caught Sadler, but Josh has got a really good situation here.
For those of you who are wondering, you can make your pit stop anytime except the last lap. And we got to be careful here. Charlie Summers, did he just...
Oh, yeah, Summers.
Yes.
Out of Griffin's Bend.
Right in front of Sadler. Sadler had a good view of this one. He's going to lose the spot to Sadler, and he's going to lose it to Thompson, and maybe more.
And see, this was my problem, and me trying to do some research on how these cars are driving around here. Remember how I said you had to compromise and really get low downforce on this car? Well, what it does is it gets really loose, and he took a little bit of curb, so it wasn't very planted. That just that tiny little touch he made is what turned it around like that. All the way over the hill, I found the faster setup, Bill, was wicked. You were sliding all over the place.
I wish there were a way for me to say I told you so without it sounding cruel, but we talked about the Joker in the deck, and once again it gets dealt to Charlie Summers. All right.
You can see some serious wing damage on the back. Yes, Bill?
Leader is in. And we're talking about Newton.
This is going to hand it over to Hoyer. This is Newton coming up to his stall. Kind of a long pit lane around here, honestly. Hoyer's coming up to Murray's corner right now.
Hoyer is around, and Sadler's out of Murray's as well. Newton is rolling. He's certainly not going to be able to get the top 2, but look what's going to happen here. There goes Hoyer. Newton is out on track.
Wow.
Ahead of Sadler. Holy smokes.
And Newton also in the box quicker than both Sadler and Thompson and Summers. In fact, he's one of the quickest stops of the day I'm seeing at 6.4 seconds.
And maybe the math is a little easier because he only needs to take enough fuel to go a couple more laps, so he could probably figure it out to the ounce. Hoyer, Newton, Sadler. Thompson is ahead of Summers after his mistake. Summers is in 5th. And he might be able to hang on with Kessler about 3.3 seconds behind, but Summers' car isn't all that healthy.
While all that is happening, we do have a battle happening in the mid-pack. Gatormeyer and Reed fighting for 9th.
Gatormeyer got to be happy that he's ahead of a former champion.
Yeah, absolutely. But right now, that doesn't mean anything. All that means to them is who's going to finish ahead.
Reed has time to wait, doesn't need to get the pass. He's really 8 seconds behind Lindstrom in 8th, so there's only one spot for Reed to get here, and he can wait to get that one coming out of Forest Elbow.
Well, while things separated in the middle of the race, they're starting to accordion back together because Sarah Dove is starting to catch Kevin Turner as well for 12th.
Turner, who had that issue earlier.
And Sarah, we should point out, because I know you tend to bring this up, Bill, is she did have a qualifying time. She would have been grid 19th, so she definitely would have been well down the order. She's gained a lot of spots here. This isn't her, not qualifying and then rushing through the field. Oh, Charlie Summers has more problems out of Murray's corner. He gets it completely turned around.
In his defense, I think this might have been a little bit of rear wing not doing what it should here. So that rear wing is pretty banged up.
You gotta race with what you've got. I think it's curb. Let's watch from on board. That'll give us a good idea. No, he stayed off those inside curbs.
Well, the rear wing was banged up. now the nose cone is banged up, and
He
he's
took
not going
a
to
tow.
finish. Yeah. The question is, will he be more than one lap down? Maybe he'll be okay when we're talking regrid. We go back live.
Well,
I think we're on the white flag lap here with... No. I guess we have to go around one more time.
yeah. I said it before, and Bill, Charlie knew when to fold him.
Well, Manuel Hoyer's lead, 1.3 seconds. He's not out of the woods yet here. Scott Newton has time, and he's really close. Don't know if he's in the tow.
Bill, you enjoy your stats. When was the last time we saw Scott win a race in the AOR?
I don't know if I don't remember one. And I've been doing this since the days with Richard Losper. I don't remember Newton getting a win.
Ooh. Plot thickens.
Yeah. And he did pick up a lot of ground, picked up about 0.2 of a second that time going down the Conrad Straight. Now, I think he'll be able to pick up more on this one. He's going to be close enough. He's within 1.2 seconds.
And we've got 2 laps to go here, Bill. So he's got multiple opportunities. Ooh, he's pushing hard. A big wobble out of Hell Corner. That might hurt him.
You can look at the number between the two there, 1.5, holding. Oh yeah, that exit out of Hell, that hurt. Because now he'll have to do it on pace, going up and down the hill.
Was he gaining on the hill before, though? I didn't really pay attention to that.
I don't think so. I think it was close
find
enough
out,
out of Forest Elbow to make a run down the gain on the going up the Conrad Straight.
Well, at Griffin's Bend, it was 1.5, so I'm going to keep an eye on that gap to see if he is faster all the way down to Forests.
And we talked about Sarah Dove. She has had a problem. She's now in the pits. She must have made a mistake trying to run down Kevin
I'm seeing her
Turner.
out on track.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
And Bill, as they hit Forest Elbow, it's 1.2. That's 0.3 of a second difference over the top of the mountain. Sadler, however, is in the pits. Oh,
Wow.
Sadler. Oh, no. The Dipper took another one. Just almost the exact same of what we saw with Osterkamp, where the car seemed to almost bottom out and it skidded into the wall and he slapped it.
And we have time. Maybe we can look at this one more time if we can go back and look at it from Josh Thompson's point of view. Oh, we can see it right here. Watch Thompson. Woo! Dodging a bullet there. Thompson now up into third. Back
Right.
to the lead, Joe.
1.1. And for the second time in a row,
Yeah.
he's pushing that corner too hard, and he took some curb on the outside. That outside curb is deceiving, Bill, because it doesn't look very tall, but in this really low-slung Formula car, if you clatter over it, it hurts your exit big time.
Yeah, corner number 1 has been his Achilles heel as we're talking Newton as he loses time again, but now he's got to run him down. He's coming.
And Hoyer is pushing hard, too, because he made a mistake in Griffin's Bend. A big wiggle out of it. That gave it all right back to Newton. If he gains the same amount of time, the 0.3 would be 0.7 behind. That's enough to try and get up next to him by the chase here, Bill. This is going to be very tight.
It's under a second. Newton has got to be perfect. He's going to be close enough. He'll have one chance as they head to Forest Elbow. They'll have one more shot out. And we have Imre up ahead. Imre does a good job of getting out of the way.
Hoyer was way stronger on that exit. I think that's the nail in the coffin. Newton's too far back.
One more lap. The interval now done under 0.8 of a second. But Manuel Hoyer into the chase. Out of the chase. Newton is coming, but there's just not going to be enough time through Murray's corner. Scott giving it everything he can, but the start-finish line is going to come up too quickly. The feature race, round number 10, goes to Manuel Hoyer, just ahead of a hard-charging Scott Newton. Josh Thompson brings it around in third. Your points leader, Patrick Kessler, salvages fourth. Lubomir Morris in a bit of a battle with Erka Lindstrom for fifth.
I think Lubomir's got this unless he makes a big mistake in this corner. Yeah, nice and smooth. Great job to Morris for fifth.
Lindstrom gets sixth. How about Dominic Gatermeyer? 15th position all the way up to 8th. It's the opposite for Phil Reed. Started third. He's going to have to settle for 9th. We'll stay with this a bit. Daniel Morris through the chase. He should be able to bring it home in 10th. There's Phil and there's Daniel. We're going to see all these guys in opposite gridding formation when we start the sprint race. Wait a minute. Look at Morris. He's really being challenged here, but we got a jump. Yeah. Van Hoyman's on the outside through Murray. Got him. It's a matter of fuel there, maybe. So Van Hoyman comes around in 10th. Morris gets 11th.
A little bit of damage on Morris. I think that's more, it was hurting his top end speed, so he was kind of slow in a straight line.
Hay and Dove are your final two cars on the lead lap. Sara getting the Baker's dozen spot. All right, the racing is over here for these feature race, but our broadcast is far from done. Best part of any doubleheader is the break in between. Perfect blend of the post-race high and the pre-race jitters. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back to talk to some of the drivers, run down the finishing order of this feature race before we get all of our ducks in a row for the 25-minute sprint race to follow. Back in a few. You're watching the Global Sim Racing channel's coverage of Apex Online Racing's Formula Renault 2.0 Season 10 Championship. It's round 10 here from Bathurst. The feature race is in the books. Let's give you the finishing order. Manuel Hoyer started on the pole, lost the lead, but was able to come back with a great pit stop and get the win. Scott Newton had a great charge, not only just from 8th to 2nd, but on the leader at the very end. He'll have to settle for 2nd. Josh Thompson and Patrick Kessler, well, they were close on the track for most of the race. They come home 3rd and 4th ahead of Lubomir Morris, a very quiet 5th. Urka Lindstrom and Dominic Gatermeyer go 6th and 7th. Phil Reed did not have the race he wanted. He had to settle for 8th. Kevin Turner had a spin, nevertheless gets 9th, just ahead of Tom Van Hoyman. Joe?
In 11th, it was Daniel Morris, and he was followed home by Ali Hay in 12th. In 13th, it was Sarah Dove, and then it gets very interesting. Alex Sadler finished 14th within 2 laps, so he will be regrid in 2nd, and then Charlie Summers will be regrid on the pole. He finished in 15th. From there, we get to drivers who had a lot more troubles. 16th was Evan Emre, Renee Osterkamp, DNF today, and 17th, Connor Ryan. Made a valiant drive, but had to settle for 18th after a wreck. Kerry Nolden gave it up today at 19th. Sam Blackwood 20th. Thomas Edwards 21st. And Alexei Sorokin last on the field in 22nd is where he'll grid.
And Joe, while we saw Bathurst claim its share of victims, and certainly some big names, Renee Osterkamp, Kerry Nolden among them, Alex Sorokin as well, it wasn't as bad as we might have expected.
Yeah, the doom and gloom did not appear as much as anticipated, and 15 drivers, I believe, made it to the end, possibly 16. I'm not sure if Emre actually made it to the checkered flag, but that's 3/4 of the field make it to the end, which is pretty good for Bathurst.
Now, this will be interesting. When they regrid, Joe talked about it. Alex Sadler and Charlie Summers, they were fast. They had the entire feature race. Then they had issues, so they finished in, what would that be, 14th and 15th position, but they were within, like Joe said, no more than 1 lap down. So they'll move up to the front. But then we get to an interesting situation. Then we get to the next guys. Sarah Dove, Alistair Hay, Daniel Morris, Tom Van Hoyman. Those guys will be going in the 2nd and 3rd row. It'll be a long way back before we get to Manuel Hoyer and Scott Newton. Going up the hill the first time, Joe, it's going to be crowded.
It will be. And the question has to be, do you elect to start from the pits maybe to try and avoid it? Or do you maybe, if you're a mid-packer, see if you can push through on that first straight and get some clear air? This is a hard call. I know that our doom and gloom did not appear in this first race, Bill, but I'm not sure we can get lucky twice.
Yeah, and not only will Manuel Hoyer and Scott Newton be put at the very back, but also big names like Sorokin, Nolden, and Osterkamp if they decide to come back and take another shot at it. All right, what we're going to do is take another short break, but don't go far. We'll be back because we have the 25-minute sprint, which is always exciting. Back in a few. Sanctioned by Apex Online Racing, this is the Global Sim Racing Channel's coverage of its Formula Renault 2.0 Season 10 Championship. The feature race is in the books. Now it's time for the Round 10 sprint race. Joe, what's up?
Well, this one being the sprint race means it's shorter, so only 25 minutes. Well, if that sounds merciful to you, you have not watched one of these before. The grid, as we mentioned, is inverted just to add to the chaos. So not only are people trying to drive through or make up positions in the shorter amount of time that they have, but they're trying to make up more positions because they're starting out of where their pace puts them naturally. There are no pit stops on this one either, so you can't really use that to try and jump anybody. The incident cap, a little bit lower since it's less time, and again, I doubt we'll see anybody hit that at 13. And the points, because it is a shorter race, they've only paid down to 16th, and a win is only worth 20. So it's a little more important to win that feature race, but this can add up over the course of the season, making sure that you get consistent finishes here in the sprint.
You know, every pre-race show, we take the time here at GSRC to show you best of day honors because we think it's an important part of this series. And you don't necessarily have to win a race to come away with the best of day honors. Kerry Nolden was able to do that last time at Zandvoort, where he got 46 points for a pair of seconds. So even though you have the winners here today from Hoyer, he needs to follow that up with a good result to get those points. It's all about being able to not only get the feature race win, but to score well in the sprint.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard going for Hoyer, especially since, like we said, we've got Summers and who else was he with on the front row? Sadler.
Sadler, yeah.
So two very fast guys, which means they'll have less to deal with. They're going to be running away while he's still fiddling with traffic.
Yeah, honestly, it will be a battle between Summers and Sadler to see who gets the win. But then the guys who are sitting in row 2 and row 3, certainly they are quality drivers. We're talking about all those guys. One of the ones I'd like to watch out for, he's really good in these sprint races, is Dominic Gatermeyer. He will fight you. He'll fight you clean, but he'll fight you hard. And that's what you want to see in these sprint races. You just good, hold your line and make the faster guys. If you're predictable, Joe, they just want you to kind of race where they figure they know where you'll be. Yeah.
Be predictable. You mentioned the championship too. That caused me to go glance at where the driver standings are and where our starters are going to be. Patrick Kessler, remember, he's not getting regrid. He's going to be back at the back since he DNF'd, if he shows up in this second one, that is. And so he's our points leader, only by 21 points. This is a chance for Phil Reed to try and catch up on him. And Osterkamp as well, sitting there third in the points. He's not getting regrid either. So,
Honestly, when you talk about that, Kessler, Reed, Osterkamp, none of them really had the race they were hoping for. Glenn Key isn't here, and neither is Stefan Herman. So an opportunity for a lot of guys to pick up some spots.
Where did Reed finish last race, actually?
I think about 8th or 9th.
Okay, so this is an excellent chance then, because he doesn't have too many cars to go through since we're only going to have 15 of them regrid.
Yep. Now, the weather is the same. They don't have to worry about their setups. That carries over from before. And actually, the weather carries over. You can see it right there. It carries over, actually, from the practice that they had yesterday. That's something that they can prepare for. They let them, here in the U.S., it's a Friday race, Friday afternoon. The Thursday night race, practice session. The weather carries over, so you get used to it. Most of these drivers from Europe, so it's a Friday night race for most everybody.
Exactly.
Except for our Australian driver, which I think it's Wednesday around 2700.
Yeah, you only have to look at the entries to kind of see where the series is focused, because we've got UK and I, DH, Finland. We've got a couple Canadians in here, but other than that, actually, I don't think we have any U.S. drivers here today.
Nope. When Soup and Crackers were doing this, we boned up on our Viking history, so we knew we could use some Ivan the Boneless references every once in a while as we look at Kerry Nolden.
Yeah, and then this should be a little bit more ideal for the Australian drivers, but it is Saturday morning, so We've got a few, but not as many as I would tend to expect. I don't like getting up on a Saturday morning, so I kind of don't blame them.
Honestly, most of those Aussies and New Zealanders, they're so used to living on the wrong side of the globe that I think they tolerate it better than we do.
This is true. This is true.
And if they didn't do stuff like this, they'd miss out on most of the events that happen. Practice going on right now. Alex Sadler sits top of the practice chart. It means absolutely nothing as the grid is already set.
In fact, we're getting to the grid pretty soon here. They don't get a whole lot of practice time, and especially with as long as this lap is. Like you mentioned, they don't really need it because they're used to the track by now. They just had a whole race. But again, I mean, gives us an idea of where people sit, because some people may have found something in the last race that they didn't have before. Maybe found a little speed somewhere.
This certainly will be obvious to all the people familiar with iRacing, but if you're new to how sim racing works, there are no fast repairs, but they do get a fresh car for this race. So everybody comes out, they don't have to worry about trying to race the damaged car that they might have injured in the feature race. All right, we can go ahead to the grid here as soon as iRacing decides to populate it for us. We'll give it to you. Now, this is how they're set up. We're not sure if everyone's actually going to come out. Sometimes they're grid up front and they decide maybe we'll start from the back. Still waiting for there it comes up and we can give it to you right now. Okay, on the front row it is, as expected, Charlie Summers and Alex Sadler. We expect them both to show up. Then we get to the guys that were farther back. Sarah Dove and Alistair Hay fill up row 2. Row 3 is Daniel Morris and Tom Van Hoyman. In the 7th spot is Kevin Turner. Now here's a big name. Phil Reed's going to be gridded in 8th outside of row 4. Dominic Gatermeyer and Urkel Lindstrom make up row 5. Joe?
Then as we work our way back to row 6, we are going to have Lubomir Morris in 11th. Patrick Kessler will be starting in 12th. Josh Thompson, P13. That'll be interesting to see him charge through. Scott Newton behind him in the 14th spot. Then Manuel Hoyer in 15th, our race winner from last time, and Evan Emre will be in 16th. Renee Osterkamp starts P17, Connor Ryan 18th, and Kerry Nolden in 19th. Sam Blackwood P20. And then rounding out the field, our last 2 drivers, and the engines will start to rev. We won't get them.
Gather up the chicken steak, cover behind the cows as Connor Ryan and Charlie Summers are. Charlie Summers way back. Oh, he's okay. Okay, I was a little bit scared there. Make sure that Charlie actually gridded. Sadler up in front. And no, Charlie Summers is not there.
Wow.
For whatever reason, he did not make the grid.
This gives Sarah Dove second place for now, but Ali Hayes trying to take that away. Can't quite get there in time by the time they get to Griffins. All right, let's see what they do. Oh, already we got a big incident. Kevin Turner in the wall hard. Joined by Tom Van Hoyman.
Van Hoyman, they managed, I think it's just a 2-car incident. That was in the second corner. Meanwhile, Sadler has cleared everybody. He's up the hill comfortably in first. Dove, Hay, Morris, and Reed, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, in fact, right now, Morris and Reed in a very tight battle. Although it looks like he's pulling away, trying to look on Ali Hay. Oh, they almost get into each other, breaking through the S's. You can see that huge lockup on the screen.
Other than Reed, the first big name I see is Josh Thompson, who is now up to 9th. He's right behind Lubomir Morris. I apologize to Morris. Morris certainly a quality driver.
And I think Summers is playing the start from the pits card because he's out there running. Maybe he just did not trust being in the middle of the pack.
Also, I didn't do my research. Possibly, maybe some type of penalty that Charlie had to serve. That's why he didn't get regrid up front. Sometimes that's how they implement those penalties.
Phil Reed gets by Daniel Morris before they get to the chase. This is a great place to try and get by someone who's slower, Bill, because not only do you get that draft, it's heavy braking, and there's plenty of runoff if it goes wrong. Battle for third, though.
That is Dove on the outside. Underneath is Phil Reed. Dove fighting back. Boy, she took it in deep.
No, that was Ali Hay. Ali Hay fighting with Phil Reed there, and Phil still comes out on top.
My apologies. Dove ahead of these guys in second. So Reed up to third, Hay in fourth. Morris, now look at Gatormeyer. Gatormeyer got a run on the back of Morris. He's going to be in good position to get that spot. Oh, look at him close behind him. Oh, my goodness. He was on the Gatormeyer was on the brakes early. Lindstrom and Thompson just gobbled him up like a hungry librarian.
Look at that 2x2 up through the cutting, or they are going to make it. Poor Thompson is boxed in.
Thompson around Lindstrom now. This battle continues to be right on the back of Lindstrom.
Man, I'm impressed that Thompson came out because, God, he was boxed in like he was coming out of Amazon.
Ah! All this going behind Sadler, who's running away with it. Phil Reed now has worked his way up to second. He's around Ali Hay. What has happened to Sarah Dove?
The Dipper claims another. Stay where you are, Sarah. Don't go, don't go. Oof. She almost pulled in front of everybody.
Man, that has been the spot.
And that really surprises me. Even though the car kept getting loose, I think what we're seeing and what I'm seeing on the replays, it seems like a lot of the cars are almost bottoming out when they go through their bill, and that's what's sending them so loose.
Looking there at Dub. We're going to look to the replay. Oh, wow, this is going on.
Big incident up front. Daniel Morris. That was with Gatormeyer to his outside, and he got tipped around by, this is not going to go down well. This was Thompson who got into the back of him.
Gatormeyer made the pass on the outside. Thompson took it in really hot. Got into Morris. Turned it around.
Watching the replay, I don't think that Thompson really is at too much fault here. You really couldn't tell from that.
So how does that work out? Gatormeyer is in fourth now. Thompson is in fifth, I believe, but he's being something's wrong
seventh.
Something's wrong with his car. Hoyer's going around him.
Remember, he got into the back of Morris, so he might have a little bit of damage and no straight line speed.
He lost spots to Hoyer and Newton.
I don't see anything on the nose from our cameras. Looks okay to me.
Connor Ryan puts it in the wall. He was way back in 20th. Don't need to go there.
Not as wild as we anticipated it being, but we definitely got some trains. Thompson is just holding up a slew of cars right now. Lindstrom, Kessler, Osterkamp, Nolden, Morris, all the way down to 12.
Yeah, those big name drivers. Go ahead.
Sam Blackwood, we just saw in the background, took a huge thunk from Daniel Morris. Oh, man. After that getting turned around in the chase, it's just been a bad day for Daniel.
Blackwood got loose in front of him. Morris with nowhere to go.
Poor Sam, he got on the radio and he said, I give up on this car. He's having just as bad of a day as Daniel, it seems.
And Daniel Morris spins it again as he continues to try to limp that car around. All this going on behind Sadler, who is 10 seconds up on Phil Reed now.
Whew. And
me correct myself.
Ali Hay.
No. Hay got him. For now. Here
I think it's going to switch right back. Yep, he's within the slipstream, ducks out to the inside. Who's braver on the brakes into Griffin's Bend? You can go very late into this corner. Also overshoot it. We've seen a few cars do.
Reed gets that pass made. Gatormeyer hangs on to fourth. Newton and Hoyer are coming in fifth and sixth.
Yeah, the more that Ali keeps fighting this, the more that's going to bring Gatormeyer, Newton, and Hoyer into the mix. And you can see they're already on top of him. So this is going to get a little hectic here, I think.
Now Reed has opened it up about 0.7 of a second on Ali Hay.
Yeah, Hay is clearly the cork in the bottle for this group. I think, yeah, Hay's back a second, so he's not going to get the draft down the Conrad straight, unfortunately for Ali.
Gatormeyer behind him, but then Newton.
Oh,
oh no!
Ali Hay, this another car victim. That braking, if you come in too hot because you're steering off to the right, the rear wants to swing around, and when it dips like that, as soon as the front grips, the tires are probably going to be locked up. So that's why you keep seeing cars suddenly get into the right wall like that. Watch you on board. Let's see if they lock up the fronts.
Yep.
No, didn't lock them up, but regardless, the rear came around.
So what happened was with that mistake, Gatormeyer got that spot. He moved up to third, but it wasn't long before Scott Newton got back around Dominic. So now Newton up to third, Gatormeyer in fourth, and here comes Manuel Hoyer.
Newton's looking like a best today to me right now. Oh, wow. Gatormeyer and Hoyer are really feisty because Hoyer was right behind him out of Hell Corner and swung it out immediately because he knew he had the speed.
Boy, they are Cialis bathtubs now as they head down into the second corner, and Gatormeyer. Dominic not that confident in the braking into two. And he's going to not only lose that position, he's going to lose one more here because he lost all of his momentum going around the outside. No, into the wall, I think, was Lindstrom. Lindstrom tried to get aggressive. I think he'd put it in the wall.
That's a risk you take when you go too wide into that kink that comes into the cutting. There's very little room to try and go too wide through that corner. Even though it's flat out, you're braking immediately after, and you're pretty marginal because the right sides are loaded up.
Let's see if he can hear this corrector if he hits the wall. I'm not sure if he does.
No, I'm pretty sure he did.
Oh yeah.
Too close to the sun. He keeps going, so maybe it didn't hurt him that bad. In fact, Gatormeyer is only about a second ahead.
And Manuel Hoyer, we don't need to go there, but into Forrest's elbow, he had kind of scraped the wall as well, so he's in fourth. I'm not sure if that car's going to have much for Scott Newton now.
Ooh, yeah. For the third time this race now, another driver who the car wants, it's like a magnet is on that corner to the right side.
I'll tell you who's in trouble as we look there. Here's Charlie Summers. The driver in second, Phil Reed. He's losing ground hand over fist.
Oh, Urkel Lindstrom just took a spin out of Murray's corner.
Ouch.
And that's a left-hander, which means the right side is loaded up, and that may have been damage, Bill. Don't have to be Poirot.
Lindstrom just came over and said, I think it was from damage. Yep. Kessler moves up into fifth.
This is Urka's spin. Yep. Yeah. Car was looking completely fine until it just snapped on him.
So now, what I was talking about is Phil Reed in second. We're looking at him now. Look at that interval.
Did we miss an incident with Josh Thompson? I'm seeing him DNF'd.
Well, remember when he had that dive down in there and he thought maybe he got it? I saw him falling down the charts.
He, remember it was Daniel Morris that he got into, and well, he's expressing some displeasure with his braking methods in the chat here.
Sadler, our leader, by about 9 seconds. There he is, all by himself. We expected to see Sadler in a battle with Charlie Summers, but for whatever reason, Summers was not either able to or allowed to take the grid. So Sadler had it all his own way.
And Phil Reed has gained on Sadler just a little bit. Not a huge chunk. I don't think he's got enough time to really make a charge for first. Could be a case of Phil Moore, instead of trying to go for first, trying to hold Newton back. when I think Morris just overtook Osterkamp for 11th. Man. So Osterkamp, let's see, he did score points for this one, I believe, correct? Or for the feature race?
Osterkamp was shut out in the feature. He did not score anything, so he's trying to make stuff up here.
All right. Well, wait, no, he finished within the top 20, though, I thought, right?
Oh, okay, then you're correct. I guess maybe he got a handful of points.
Yeah, a couple points.
Just no regrid, right.
But
it's hard not to score points today with only 22.
We saw the pass there, and sitting here in 11th right now, he's not going to get a whole lot.
We look at Osterkamp in 11th. Tell you the guy who's making a great charge through the field is Charlie Summers. He started at the back. He has already worked his way up to 7th. He's closing in on Kessler.
And Kessler's
probably the fastest car in the feature race was Summers until things went wrong.
Exactly. And Kessler's been struggling with this track, so Charlie needs to be a bit careful, because if he unsettles Patrick a little bit too much, we've already seen multiple mistakes from him. And I wouldn't put it past the number 28 to maybe make another, and that can take you out in a hurry. Boy, gained on him quick.
Yeah, he should be able to get to Kessler, and then it's not that far up to get to Dominic Gatermeyer. So I really think Summers is going to be able to get this as we ride on board. You can see him getting larger in the screen, and there's the pass made going into the chase. Moves Summers up into 6th position. Yeah,
if he could leave him behind, that'd be ideal, because he doesn't want Patrick to try and slipstream right back by on the mountain straight. He's already putting a little bit of distance. I think Charlie should be good. Phil Reed's still on a charge. He's at the fastest lap of the race. Still only down to 9 seconds.
He's got to hustle, because Scott Newton is only 1.3 seconds behind him.
Yeah, taking a glance at the most recent laps on Newton. 1.8, 2.3, 1.8 versus 1.8, 2.6, 1.7. So they're actually pretty evenly matched. It was only one of the last 3 laps where Reed was slower.
Looking at Reed in 2nd. You can see the interval, about 1.7 back to Newton. He's got just under 10 minutes to get there.
Looking through the order to see how everybody... Oh, did Daniel Morris just have an issue?
Yeah, I heard something. I couldn't see
it. No, it was a connection issue. So he blinked in and out for a bit, but he's still going.
Let's go to 5th. Oh no, it's Charlie Summers. He's done. He puts the car on the wall and it cartwheels over the fence.
Wow.
He was closing in on Dominic Gatermeyer. He was coming in a hurry. I hope you haven't had lunch yet, because this one might make you nauseous.
You got to come into these S's so fast. So he was carrying ahead of steam. I've never seen a car do that, actually.
Well, he had a head of steam. He had worked his way from the back all the way up into 6th position, but that's done. That's good news for Gatermeyer, because Summers was certainly going to get him. Now all he has to do is worry to hold off Patrick Kessler.
Pretty sure that steam is now coming out the ears, unfortunately, for Charlie.
Yeah. And once again, I don't mean to drive the point home, but Summers has potential that just doesn't pan out at the end.
He and Dove got to get together, figure out how to finish races.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Scott Newton falling back now from Phil Reed.
Yeah, it was under 2 seconds. Now it's about 3.5. About 2.
Credit to the 44. I mean, he charged his way forward. He got into 2nd, and since then, he's been holding down the fort.
Phil?
I love these angles that are either over the shoulder so you can see really how close the car gets to the edges of the track around here to be fast.
And it really does. You can see the elevation. It just falls down the hill.
People have said that games, even here in iRacing, even though it's scanned, it doesn't do it justice. Oh, and Scott Newton's best today is slipping through his fingers. This is outside of the dipper. Didn't hit anything, but spun it completely around, and that is so narrow right there, Bill. He had no place to try and get it out.
Did a good job of getting out of the way. Hoyer gets by, Gatormeyer gets by, Kessler gets by, Sorokin gets by, Morris.
I think in his efforts, though, I think he did bang the nose into the wall.
Boy, yep, sure enough. Well, it might have been a blimp, but yeah, when it's all said and done, he sorts out in 10th position behind Rene Oosterkamp.
All the way from a podium spot. So that would make Hoyer the most likely,
Yeah.
I'd say, since he's now up
Say
there.
a win in the feature and a third in the sprint. That'll probably do it for you.
Oh, and Gatormeyer very slow. He just got swamped by Kessler. Ooh. As we pull up this replay, Bill, this was a monster save from Dominic. We're watching Kessler here. Let's see if we can... We might have to rewind a little bit. Yeah, you saw just the end of it there for Gatormeyer. We might want to go on board here for Dominic. This first corner, you got so little downforce, you're trying to swing it through as fast as you can. Man, that could have so easily just gone into the concrete to his right. Great reflexes there from Dominic.
So he falls back to 5th position, just ahead. A driver we have not talked about in 6th spot, right behind Gatormeyer. There is Alexei Sorokin. Started in 22nd, all the way up to 6th. And really, with Gatormeyer in his sights and just under 5 minutes to get there, he's got a chance at the top 5.
A chance, but he's got to get a little bit closer because he's not quite within the slipstream to where he can run him down. These really are the closest drivers right now. Kessler ahead of Gatormeyer and Gatormeyer ahead of Sorokin. Everybody else pretty far apart.
12 cars still on the lead lap. Sarah Dove and Evan Emery running 11th and 12th.
Sadler in the meantime.
Yeah, remember this guy?
Just running his laps. He's got 8.4 seconds. Doesn't have to push it too hard. Just run what he's comfortable. So, despite the bad first race, I'd say Sadler could be pretty happy with this if he brings it home.
Let's go to 5th because sure enough, here comes Sorokin. He has really ran down Gatormeyer. We thought he was too far back. Well, man, he's there now.
Gatormeyer dealing with some damage maybe because his car looks clean. Or it just might be outright pace. Maybe Alexei was just having to climb through the field, and now he's finally caught him. But I was just surprised that he got up to the back of Dominic that quickly. Through the dipper one more time, and Alexei's pushing hard. He wants to get this spot.
Out of course, elbow should be close enough here.
Yeah, but he was way off the apex. He could have been so much closer through there. This going to get the slipstream. He's within half a second. This should put him about side by side by the time they break for the chase. Just compounds as you get closer and closer and closer. You got a head of steam. Ooh, defensive move. And he's not going to try it. But Dominic's feeling threatened.
Don't mess with the gator. That's all I know. That living in ain't that in Florida for a while.
With the gator, you get the teeth.
That's right.
I don't know if there's a quote or anything like that.
I think Dominic might be in trouble now if Sorokin can get a good run out of hell.
Bill, he's in the wrong place. They got Crocs here.
That's true.
Not the sandals.
Too far back. Too far back. I don't think he's going to get there.
Yeah, great defense from Gatormeyer. Just got himself a good launch this time, and going to hold him at arm's length. But he's got the Conrad straight yet to go, so this isn't over.
Just to double check, are we on the white flag lap, or are we going to get one more time around? A minute and a half racing left. One more after this one. So that'll give Alexei 2 more shots at Gatormeyer.
3 more, really.
Yeah.
Twice on Conrad, once on Mountain.
There you go.
Just keeping him a decent way in front of him without being right on top of him, so he's got some chance to respond. Closes up through the dipper. One he really needs to focus on is coming out of Forest Elbow right here. Oh, Gatormeyer was way offline. Look at that. Beautiful stuff from Sorokin.
And there it is. Not much answer to that one.
That is looking easy for Sorokin. But Gatormeyer could try and outbreak him. We haven't seen that great a break-in from Gatormeyer so far this race. Yeah, he's just going to have to stay behind.
Oh, gets a little loose. Sorokin does. That opens the door for Gatormeyer to fight back.
Blood is in the water. He's going to try it around the long way around. Just has enough of a space. Ooh, his connection is not looking good. Thank goodness they didn't get into each other.
Now if he can hold in here and get some momentum on the high side of hell, make a run here. Nope.
He is going to get a bit of a slipstream, but I don't think it's going to help him get beside him.
Here comes Gatormeyer again, though. Going to make one more stab at it. Nope. He'll have to wait.
Too late. Yep.
Our leader has seen the white flag, huh?
He's in the dipper. So about half a lap to go for Alex Sadler. He's not out of the woods yet. He's got that 8-second gap, but that can disappear as long as you don't bang into the wall here, and he's good. Just has to run a nice smooth line through the chase, and that checkered flag is in the hands of the 21, Bill.
I can report that once Sorokin did get around Gatormeyer, he left him behind going up and down the hill. So now we put our attention on Alex Sadler. Didn't have the feature race that he would have hoped for, but that's one of the aspects of the Apex Online Racing League where you can make up for it. Through the chase, just has the 90-degree left-hander that is Murray Corner, and then picking up another win, Alex Sadler.
He's going to pick up a nice second, though he's way far behind, but that's more due to him having to come through traffic with some style across the line to boot.
We think Manuel Hoyer is going to pick up Best of Day honors with a feature win and a third-place sprint.
Sorokin was able to hold off Gatormeyer. Morris had a glance at Dominic, but he was too far back.
They fall in behind Kessler, who gets 4th, Sorokin in 5th, Gatormeyer in 6th. Let's stay on this. We'll let all these guys on the lead lap come across.
Newton and Osterkamp in a fight for position. This is down to the line. Newton's going to work the long way around, coming out of Murray's.
It's going to be a drag race. And it is going to go to Newton.
Wow.
3/1000ths of a second over Rene Oosterkamp. 9th and 10th.
Great stuff between those two. That's two top-level drivers. That respect they had through that corner, both pushing hard at the same time, Bill.
Sarah Dove is going to come through the chase. She's going to pick up 11th position, which should be able to bring it home. And the last driver, we will not wait for Evan. Rolling Thunder Imre, really tough back there just out of Forest Elbow, last car on the lead lap. Even if he were to crash, he would still finish in the 12th position. Okay, the racing is over here in the sprint race, but our broadcast is not. We'll take a short break. We'll come back to run down the entire finishing order, talk to a lot of the drivers before we put a lock on the gate. Don't go away. Phil Reed had a great run from 8th, has to settle for 2nd. Manuel Hoyer, we think, is going to get best of day honors with a 3rd place finish here in the sprint with that with his win in the feature. Patrick Kessler, your points leader, comes home in 4th ahead of Alexei Sorokin, who went from 22nd to 5th. Dominic Gatermeyer showed his teeth, and he was tough. He comes home in 6th ahead of Lubomir Morris. Daniel Morris behind him in 8th, 9th, and 10th. Scott Newton, racing up front, had some problems. And then your early points leader in the season, Rene Oosterkamp, has to settle for 10th. Joe?
11th, Sarah Dove did a decent job after her early incident to come back. Evan Imre behind her in 12th spot. Charlie Summers didn't elect to take the pole either through penalty or his own choice. Regardless, comes home in 13th. Decent recovery drive. Kerry Nolden finishing 14th, even though I should mention that Charlie did DNF. He finished 6 laps down. Urkel Lindstrom, these are all DNF drivers. 15th, Josh Thompson. 16th, Ali Hayes. 17th, Thomas Edwards, P18, and then Sam Blackwood in 19th. Last 3 drivers were Connor Ryan in 20th, Tom Van Hoyman in 21st, and Kevin Turner in the 22nd position. Bill?
I've got Scott Newton with me. I know he's not happy probably with his 9th place finish here in the sprint, but Scott, things have really turned around for you in the back half of the season. You are running up front.
Yeah, cheers, Bill. Yeah, it has picked up quite a bit for me. Just been able to put in the solid practice with a good mate of mine. So yeah, things have been able to turn around, and Bathurst being a home track, I thought I'd at least try and turn it on. At least, and thankfully I was able to do that in the race, but not qualifying, unfortunately.
Australia is a big place. How close is Bathurst to actually where you actually live?
Other side of the country. So it's about 4 hours flight plus a 3-hour train ride from the airport in Sydney. But as the crow flies, it's probably, I would say, 3,000 kilometers or about 1,800 miles.
So it's your home track in accent only. What do you credit? Is it just the practice time that you've been able to put in? That's why you're running up front now, or is you feeling comfortable with the car? What do you think the biggest thing is?
It's a bit of everything, really, to be honest. A combination of setup, practicing in a fairly consistent weather that is close to the actual race weather, because with the dynamic session, it's completely random. And with the practice server going up at 2 o'clock in the morning Friday, my time, I don't get the time to turn up for the practice session. So I really only find out the weather as I'm getting to work. And then I've either got to practice for an hour or pretty much go to bed straight after I get home from work to be able to get up to these races. So, yeah, it's putting in the time early and being able to practice with someone that's at least on your level as well with the car, because having a reference early is pretty pivotal, so that whether you know that you're on the pace or off the pace, and whether you've got to do more setup work or whether it's just confidence in the car or anything like that.
I'll get you out of here on this one. My partner put me on the spot when he asked me, has Newton have a win ever in this series? And I said, I don't think so. Have you actually won a sprint or a featured race?
Yeah, I've run a couple of sprint races. I think Montreal. Oh, sorry, not Montreal. It was Road America season 6, I think, or 7, and then Mossport sprint season 8. But the closest I ever got to a feature race win was today. Previously to that was season 5 Montreal, where I was actually leading from the pole and looped at turn 9 and 10 on lap 20.
Well, we got 2 more races before this one's done. Let's see if we can pick up a feature win here before the season's out. Yeah,
definitely hoping to do so. And yeah, just want to thank the team and all the sponsors, JCL SimRacing, Leo Bodnar, Sim Steering, and SDK Gaming.
You got it. Scott Newton finishing 9th here, but another good day. Joe, who we got?
We've got Phil Reed, 2nd place finisher here in the sprint race. And Phil, let's talk about that first lap coming up to Griffin's Bend. That kind of set the tone for your race. The seas effectively parted for you, and then it was smooth sailing from then on.
Yeah, it was an interesting race, I suppose. I had some sketchy moments racing through some people, losing it a few times in the first couple of laps there. But yeah, once I got past, and I didn't make any mistakes, I kind of just ran off from the guys behind. I was trying as hard as I could to catch Alex, but by then the damage had already been done, the 10-second gap. So he did a good job, but not to bin it, and he had some good pace. I feel like I was a little bit faster, but just saying that 10-second gap was too much.
Yeah, I kind of don't blame you on that one. Now, you had Scott Newton closing on you towards the end, and obviously, unfortunately, his day ended prematurely. Before that, were you at all worried that maybe he could catch you?
Yeah, well, I was. He was super fast in the first race. I think he was faster than me. I feel like I had good overall pace, but I just couldn't quite get it down the track. Whereas Scott was able to do really nice times all the time, and so he was. Yeah, he was definitely a threat in that race, and he was the reason why I was pushing so hard in that sprint race. Normally, I sort of take it a little bit easier. You know, I'm sitting in second. I've got a massive gap to the leader. I don't really need. Like, I'm not going to catch him. There's no push, but he's there right behind me, so I've got to give it my all. Which normally ends in disaster here for me. But as it turns out, it worked all right. You know, I only made a few I only made once I got past those few mistakes in the start. I only made the one final mistake on the very last lap. So yeah, it sort of worked out quite nicely in the end.
So let me ask you this then: Are you glad to see the back end of Bathurst, or do you like racing here?
I'm glad to see the back end of it every single time we come here. I really wish it. The only reason I like coming here, and it has nothing to do with the racing, is that usually it throws up some funny results. I don't think it really did this time, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, in the past we've had some great results. We even had one race where we only had 4 people finish on the lead lap, which was good.
Yeah, that is a bit bizarre. Well, again, congratulations on a second here in the sprint, and hope to see you in a week's time.
Thank you very much, guys. Take care.
Bill?
Okay, the next up is we're going to talk to Manuel Hoyer. Somebody bring him in here. If they leave it up to me, I'll probably bring in Queen Elizabeth from the Royal Channel there. Do we have? There's Manuel. He's in there. I know what to do now. Manuel, congratulations on another good round. We figure you are best of day.
Yeah, thank you. It was very surprising for me, to be honest, because I started practice yesterday, and on this track I always needed about 5-6 days. So I'm more than happy with the results, and also for the team, it's a great day.
Do you race a little differently knowing that this place is so unforgiving that one mistake will cost you your race? Do you find that you can't race at 100% like you can maybe at other tracks?
Yeah, definitely. In the race, my pace was very struggling. One time, a good lap time, and then next lap, a worse time. And it's very difficult to stay focused and to push. Yeah, as you said, the walls are very near, and every mistake will cost you the race. And so I think all drivers doing like this on these tracks, because it's more important to finish than to drive the fastest laps.
I know we've talked about this before, but this car seems to suit you pretty well. I like what you're doing in this car.
Yeah, since this season I like this car more and more, and I think I can see it in the results as well, that the season is running very good for me. And also with the setups, it's more easier for me now to find the right one and to know what to change when I'm not happy with some situations in some turns. And I really like it, and I hope to be part of this league next season again, to show, okay, I will be one of the top 5 in the championship. That's my goal also this season, to win the championship. Not Kessler is too far away, and he did also a great season so far, and took all the points he can get.
I think your biggest problem is going to be telling the family that you're going to be busy on Friday nights, that you need to be every Friday so that you can get every point possible.
Yeah, it's not difficult for my family. They know it since 2 years that I'm driving an AOR on Friday night. So they understand when I'm not able to be on a birthday party for aunt or uncle.
Right.
So they have to understand this. I have another priorities on Friday night.
Well, when that happens, you let us know, and we'll give a shout out during the broadcast to Uncle Olaf, who was having a birthday.
Okay, that's nice.
Manuel Hoyer, congratulations on another good day.
Thank you very much.
Gosh darn it, we just there we go. I think that's gonna do it for us. We bring Pete back in here. All right, here we go. That's gonna wrap it up for us right now. We'd like to thank everybody who made this possible. We're gonna start by thanking, of course, everybody at Apex Online Racing for the work they do, for organizing this series and contracting with GSRC to broadcast. Thanks to the company's equipment and software that you see on the screen right now that we use on the broadcast. The original music comes courtesy of Eric Eckelm and June Alon. See the screen for how to contact each of them. The AOR Formula Renault Championship returns next week, Friday, 24th of August, from Imola. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, visit globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Gram. Don't forget to head over to the YouTube page and hit the big red subscribe button as well, so that you don't miss any of the moments here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Finally, on behalf of the crew, Joe, Sean, and Dougie, I'd like to thank you all for watching. With that said, we're off to have fun storming the castle. So until next time, race clean, race hard, see you on the track.